do, that would be fantastic too. See what kind of businesses you have, or whether you work for the chamber, or kind of what you guys got going on, of kind of who's in the room.
Buck, do you have anything to share this morning? Welcome. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well, good, thank you.
So yeah, I was actually gonna put it in the chat box, but I am Renaissance Small Business Consulting, and new to the McMinnville area. I was living in Tualatin with my wife Jill for about 9 months, and we are transplants from Phoenix, Arizona. So yeah, so I just I work at the alt co-working space with Casey, and she started bringing me out to some of the chamber events to get networked a little bit now that I'm here. So I'm just probably going to join, but I'm still doing some of the legal setup stuff so that I can do business in Oregon, and then yeah, we'll kind of get integrated into the community, and we've really loved our time up here so far.
Excellent. So on Monday, we're also, I'll have the Secretary of State on with me for the National Small Business Week. I don't know if that would help you at all with some of the legal paperwork and stuff. So if you wanted to drop in on that, that's something we'll be talking about too. And those presenters always have excellent resources for what kind of paperwork you need to do business here in Oregon. So if you guys have time, that might be something that could help you out there.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
All right, so I've got Rodrigo in the chat. One Main Financial, oh, Third Street Oil, very cool. Center of Giving Social Hub, that's cool too. Excellent.
Great. Okay, so I'm gonna hold the door open for a few more people and let them in the room. I'm ready to get started if Ashley and Adam are ready to go.
Yeah, let me pull up our presentation here.
Very good. Welcome, Ashley. She's with SBA, as you can see on her screen, and Adam is with Oregon Employment Department. So welcome to you both. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having us. In the beginning, as mentioned, I am from the SBA. Adam is from the Oregon Employment Department. We're going to be giving a quick presentation on hiring employees and how to successfully grow your business. Just as quick housekeeping, we're going to ask that we please turn cameras and microphones off for now, but please feel free to use the chat box. We'll try to answer those as we go through. Any questions that we're not able to answer during the presentation, or if you think of something afterwards, please feel free to shoot me a message. Again, I'm going to send this presentation out to everyone so that you all have it, because there are hot links in here that hopefully will help you kind of as you are growing your business or as you're filing paperwork and things of that nature. So just a quick introduction. So my name is Ashley Lambeth Christian. I know that that's a mouthful, so I just go by LC. I am the Outreach and Marketing Specialist for the SBA's Portland District Office. I also am an entrepreneur, so I own M's House, which is a home decor business. I've also owned other businesses. I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur in that aspect. Clothing boutiques, construction consulting, things of that nature. And I also teach from Mira Costa Community College, which is located in San Diego. So I'm still teaching, and I teach within their business department. So business law, hospitality law, entrepreneurship, business plans, and feasibility studies are all classes that I teach. So it's a little bit about my background and kind of where I came from. I am a transplant also. I know earlier Buck was saying that he's a transplant. I'm a transplant from Southern California as of last year. But I'm super excited to be here and talk to you a little bit about hiring employees. Adam, did you want to jump in and talk about yourself just a little bit?
I love talking about myself. It's my favorite topic. Hi, McMinnville. My name is Adam Grieve. I am the business services representative for Benton County. Please don't hold that against me. I live in McMinnville, so I'm happy to be here to talk. With business services, we'll be able to talk a little bit about how we can help you with your hiring processes and give you a little bit of insight about the tools that we utilize here. And I'm really thrilled to be working with LC here.
All right. Excellent. I'm glad I was able to get Adam to come along with me. I'm super excited about what they have going on. So as far as agenda goes, we're going to talk about the WorkSource program first. Adam's going to tell us a little bit about what he does and how they can help you. We're going to talk about whether or not your business is ready for employees. We're going to talk a little bit about legal responsibilities. As a disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give any specific legal advice. I can just cover some of the basics. What kind of employees do you actually need? And then we'll talk a little bit about what to cover in training. Specifically, we'll talk about Maslow's. So with that, Adam, why don't you kind of take it away and talk about how WorkSource can help you?
Okay, so one of the things that WorkSource can do for businesses is we can, especially for smaller businesses, it costs somewhere around $20,000 minimum to really hire and bring on and train an employee. Really, it costs about a third of someone's annual salary, but there is a minimum floor because the cost is also the hours you spend writing job listings, doing research on what the wage should be, figuring out what is this person actually going to do, and then bringing them on, interviewing folks, posting jobs, training the individual once you hire them. And then finally, once they start being more productive and functional on their own at your business, it's very expensive. WorkSource can offer a lot of insight into things you can do when you're hiring. We can also do a lot of this for you. So I'll walk you through what happens if someone comes to WorkSource and says, I need to hire, and they would like us to do some of this for them. We will come out to your business and we'll do what's called a site visit. We'll come out there, and while we're there, kind of learn about your company's culture, understand what it is that you're looking for. And some of that means defining the role of what it is you're hiring. And I'll use an example here of a business that I've been working with. They are wanting to do some custom metal work, but it's very small and intricate work. When I went in, they said, well, we're looking for an apprentice. And I said, great. I get down there and they want, there's going to be work with art. There's going to be work with a CNC machine, and they need somebody to also work in AutoCAD. And I said, well, this really sounds like you're going to be wanting to hire someone who does AutoCAD more than you want somebody who is an artist. And it's a tricky thing to kind of suss out what is it you want versus what is it you need, and what are the skill sets that people generally have. Do you hire an artist who knows CAD, or do you look for someone who knows CAD and also is an artist? And where do we want to find this individual? And if we do find them, what do you pay them? And that kind of dials into what type of hire makes the most sense. If you need someone full-time, part-time, just as a temporary thing, is this an intern? There's a lot of rules that go around internships. If you aren't hiring as a business, like to bring them on as an employee, is this going to be more of a contractor sort of situation? Are you just doing seasonal hiring? And when you dive into that, when we start looking into, well, okay, I want to hire someone with expertise in this, but that means that they have a lot of extra skills that aren't necessary for this. Like somebody who does computer-aided drafting issues, they might have a big background in engineering, but you don't need an engineer. You just need somebody who knows CAD. Is there some other things that are important here that we can kind of dial into what this person needs? If you bring them on, is there some other training that could be provided that would really bring up those skills that are lagging that aren't necessarily going to be present with that person? Those are things that we can help with. And this is a really hard point for a lot of businesses. Can you pay someone at the skill level you are requiring? And I'm going to put up a little link here in the chat. And this is a website that the Oregon Employment Department maintains. And it's called Quality Info, qualityinfo.org. We gather a lot of statistics on businesses throughout the state, mostly because the Bureau of Labor and Statistics requires all the states to gather that information, but we also put it to use ourselves. And one of the big things we find in there is really getting granular about job descriptions and what those people are currently making in their region for that job. So we can look and say, if a business is having a hard time hiring a machinist, we can say, well, what are you offering for wages? And they say, well, I'm offering $20 an hour. And we pull up quality info and look up machinist. And we say, well, it looks like a machinist could, in your area, be making 30 as the average wage. So you are going to have a hard time hiring a machinist. That's just the reality of it. The information doesn't lie. So you kind of have to get a bit more creative in, do you hire someone who has been and has the certifications of this, or do you start looking for people who have the knowledge and experience without the certification that would be interested in this and interested in working towards that with your business? And that tiles into what kind of benefits are you offering? $20 an hour isn't great without benefits. $20 an hour with good benefits is fantastic sometimes. And that is a discussion that kind of needs to be had. And the really critical part of this is, where do you find these individuals? With business services, we can do a lot of the recruiting for the businesses. We will look for information. We will work with you on developing a job listing that meets what people are asking for, the job seekers, what they're looking for, and kind of cater to them and how they process the information when they're reading. And we put it in locations. We utilize LinkedIn recruiting, which has been incredibly successful for finding good candidates, especially in your more professional degrees or your more professional fields, and also some non. It's surprising how many people are on LinkedIn. We also post to Indeed. We will post to more specific job boards depending upon the role. I know of a great many construction job boards and heavy equipment programs. We also utilize the iMatch skills system, which has more breadth in the people that are available than it has in the past, due to the pandemic, due to people being aware that it exists and utilizing it. And it allows people to better match towards jobs. So we have a lot of options available for how we can help you do your recruiting. If you are interested in more information, you can come to worksourceoregon.org. That is our website. And the business services individual in Yamhill County, his name is Jeff Long. I'm going to post his information in the chat here. And he is the person that will come out for all of you in McMinnville, in Newburgh, and in Sheridan and Willamina to come out and see, and Dayton. I don't want to forget about Dayton and Amity. We'll come out to see the business and kind of work with you to develop a recruiting plan that works for your business. So thank you. Oh, one last thing I wanted to talk about. With regard to training, there is a program called the On-a-Job Training Program. It is different for every county, or at least certainly different from my county, but I believe we have 2 individuals in the room, at least one. I saw one pop in. That's Amberly Ruck there. And I don't see the other person, but I can talk a little bit about it. OJT will allow you to offset some of the costs for hiring employees who don't necessarily have all of the skills that you might need. And it's a way to kind of help alleviate skill gaps with your employees. And this is something that Jeff can put you in contact with, but they require you work with the OJT provider, the Title I-B provider in the WorkSource office. You'll outline the skills that new employees are going to learn. You'll get kind of granular and specific in those skill gaps. And the training program generally lasts for 2 to 6 months. And at the end of that, you'll recoup some of the money spent on that employee, up to $5,000 or 50% of the training wages, whichever one gets hit first. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Adam, for being here today. I think what you guys are doing is so incredibly important. And, you know, kind of like an HR team, right?
We are HR in absentia.
Yeah. So awesome. Thank you. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the responsibility that goes along with hiring employees. I'm sure that most of you are already aware of this, but it was a little shocking to me. I know when I first hired my first employee, it was one of those, oh my gosh, now there's people depending on me. Their families are depending on me to make the right decisions so that they can feed their families, right? So it was this whole other realm of responsibility, just on a personal level. You're also held to a higher standard. So when it comes to any type of lawsuits, business law, the expectation is that you as a business owner know what your responsibility is. So you need to know employment laws. You need to know the different commercial business laws, right? And so there's also, when you're hiring employees, there are more regulations and agencies involved. You've got the state of Oregon that's involved. You've got the IRS that's involved. And so there's a lot of different people that are kind of, that you have to answer to, right? Or a lot of different agencies you have to answer to. You want to plan ahead when you're hiring employees. So not only planning ahead for your future, so as future expansions, if you're planning on coming out with new products or services, you want to think ahead of that, as well as planning ahead for anything that might go awry. And so you want to have different insurances and things in place as well, just in case somebody ends up injured, whether that's an employee or a guest. And so you want to have these kind of things in place. You also want to continue to educate yourself. So we're going to talk about training employees later, but you want to continue to make sure that you're abreast of any changes in laws or regulations and kind of stay in front of that too. Because if you ever do find yourself in any type of legal trouble, the defense of, well, I didn't know, isn't going to fly. And so you want to make sure that you are aware of some of the circumstances that change. So how do you even know that you're ready to hire? So there's certain things that you want to make sure that you're kind of asking yourself or making sure that you are conscious of. So are you busy enough that you're having to turn away customers? So are you getting so much work in that you can't handle it by yourself, or your current team is not able to handle the amount that you have coming in? Have you identified a possible new revenue stream? So is there a new target market or segment that you can focus in on? Is there a new product or service that you can offer? And again, you're not able to handle all of those on your own. Do you have enough cash flow to sustain a new salary? And so this is where Adam was talking about being able to pay somebody for their specific skill level. Are you able to sustain that new salary? Are you receiving any customer complaints, or is customer service slipping because you're just so busy? And so this is also something to think about of, is it customer service is slipping because we're just way too busy, or is customer service slipping because we've become complacent? And so making sure that you're very cognizant of the difference there. And maybe it's time to do training, or again, maybe it's time to hire somebody to pick up some of the slack. Do I have a weakness that could be somebody else's strength? So as an example, I am terrible with numbers, accounting, and all of that sort of stuff, payroll. I am awful with something like that. And so for me, I need to hire somebody who's great with numbers. So that's my big weakness, but I can think of hiring somebody who can alleviate that weakness, and that's their strength. And now we're a stronger team for that. So think about within your team, are there weaknesses that you can hire somebody to strengthen that? And then also thinking about, what are my short-term and long-term goals? What are we trying to achieve? Where are we trying to get, right? And how can hiring somebody get us to that next step? So when you are hiring someone, particularly here in Oregon, there are different sets of paperwork you're going to need to file with different agencies. And so some of those are state agencies, some of those are governmental agencies. And so a lot of these have to do with taxes. So one of my favorite quotes is, there are only two certain things in life, and that's death and taxes. So when doing business here in Oregon, you will need to get an employee identification number, and that's through the IRS. You can go onto the IRS website, I have it linked here. You just fill out the paperwork, and it's almost instantaneous. So this allows for you to pay federal employee taxes and federal taxes in general. Excuse me. In Oregon, I know as we were talking about, some of you are transplants. So this is a little bit different from some states. You'll need a business identification number here in Oregon. So there's the link here. You'll need to have W-2 forms filled out for your employees. And as you're really kind of getting into taxes, taxes can be complicated. And so if this isn't something, if you're like me, you're not great with numbers, you're not great with payroll and things of that nature, you may want to consider hiring an outside company or contractor to help you with payroll, or going through courses or something to learn about some of those payroll taxes and things of that nature. You'll also need W-4 forms or W-9 forms if you're hiring 1099 or contractors, and then I-9 forms if you're hiring somebody who's not a citizen. So there's all sorts of different things here. And again, I have these hot linked, so you'll be able to access these later. Other considerations for when you're hiring employees are different types of contracts. And there are some things that you may not even realize that are legally considered contracts. So first, employment contract, this one everybody knows is a contract, but you may want to have an employment contract that lays out the job responsibilities, the length of the job, particularly if this is temporary employment, or a project to define the project that they may be working on if it's a temporary situation. And so basically in an employment contract, you want to lay out the expectation and responsibility from both parties. So what is it that you're offering and what is it that they are offering? So you want to lay that out. Depending on what type of industry you're in, you may need non-disclosure agreements. So if you have a very particular process, or if you have secret ingredients, or if you are making a product that's new to market, you may want to have people sign NDA, so non-disclosure agreements. Here in Oregon, you can also do non-compete. However, there are lots of different rules and stipulations. So non-compete would be once that employee no longer works for you, they may not be able to set up shop in a certain area. But a lot of states are making this, what's the word I'm looking for, more and more strict and not as easy to do. So Oregon does have some non-compete, but you'll really want to get, it keeps changing. In fact, there was just more major changes in 2019. And so you want to make sure that if you do try to do non-competes, where it might be you can't set up shop within 20 miles for the next 3 years, right? You want to make sure that you're hitting all of the checklists, go back, check what that non-compete legalities are before trying to put a non-compete in place, because it may not be legally binding if you don't hit each of those check boxes. And as an example, I think here in Oregon, one of the check boxes is that employee needs to make 4 times as much as what the average family of 4 is making in order for it to qualify as for non-compete agreements. So just things to think about. A lot of people are surprised to learn that employee handbooks can be considered contracts, or are considered contracts. So employee handbooks can be great to, again, lay out the expectations for behavior, for things like codes of conduct, terms of termination. So you'll get 3 warnings before you're terminated for something, or there's certain things that if this happens even one time, it's a fireable offense. You can talk about how promotions and seniority work. And so this can be really great to kind of start building your company culture and setting expectations. However, if you put in there that you're promoting by seniority, and then you don't promote by seniority, or if you say layoffs will occur by seniority and then you don't, this can put you up for lawsuits. It's considered contractually binding, and there have been situations where this has occurred. You also, with employee handbooks, you have to let employees know when any changes to the employee handbook happen. And so there's a lot that goes around employee handbooks and how those are binding. Something else to really keep in mind, particularly if you yourself are not doing the direct hiring, is what you or your managers say during the hiring process is legally binding. So choose your words carefully. If it's promised that there's some benefits, even something as simple as, hey, we're going to get you a bus pass as part of your employment. If this is mentioned and then it's not followed through on, or hey, the salary is going to be, you know, 55,000, and then it comes back as we're offering you 45,000. Anything that's said during that hiring process is legally binding. You know, even if they say we're going to give you a car office, these are things that you really have to consider, because again, this can get you in hot water. So make sure that all of you are on the same page for the details of the position and what is offered or promised during the hiring process. Something else to make sure that you brush up on is Title VII for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So this is laws that are protecting against any type of discrimination that's specifically based off of race, color, national origin, sex, and religion. And so you're not able to have any type of discrimination with regard to any term, condition, or privilege of employment. One of the things that I've seen a lot of recently has to do with sex and gender, where, for example, people who have children may be given like holidays and things off beforehand. Or there may be discrimination against, you know, hiring somebody who's pregnant because you know that they're going to be going on maternity leave. These are all things that are based into sex or gender, and so it's really important that you understand the laws regarding the Civil Rights Act and what is protected. And so it can get really kind of difficult and complex. But this is something to definitely kind of brush up on, learn more about under hiring practices, promotional practices, any types of privileges or benefits that you're offering as well, and how those may affect your employees. All right. So very basic stuff here in Oregon. Minimum wages vary county to county in Oregon, and so staying abreast of that is really important. So where it may be, you know, $11.50 in one county, it might be $15 in another, and so depending on where you're doing work is also going to depend on how you're having to pay employees. Paid hours and overtime, so over 40 hours a week is considered overtime, so this would be time and a half, up to 10 hours. And then you have double time that comes in as well. A really important one, and I've seen this, so previous to teaching and having businesses and things like that, I also have worked as a project manager in construction. And so this is something that happens quite frequently, but breaks. You must, for any employee that is working over 6 hours, they must have an unpaid lunch break of at least 30 minutes. And then within the shift, they need to have 2 10-minute breaks in an 8-hour shift. And you cannot condense all of those breaks together. They have to be spaced out. And you can receive serious fines. In the past, I've worked with construction owners that for 3 days, they didn't have the guys take a lunch. It was reported, and once everything your job and responsibility to provide a safe work environment. And so making sure that there's different safety trainings in place, different safety measures in place. You also are going to have to follow OSHA regulations. And we'll talk a little bit about training for this a little bit down the line. But there's also a link here to look at more in depth what the rights of workers or employees are for the state of Oregon. Where is my, there it is. So kind of Adam touched on this when he was presenting and talking about WorkSource earlier, that training employees and having to retrain employees over and over can be very expensive. Trying to hire them, posting it on job boards, it can be time consuming. It can cost you a lot of money. And so really you want to be able to retain employees. You want to be able to cross-train employees. It's going to be more beneficial for you, because the more that employees can handle within the company, the more that you, instead of having to be there running your business, the more you can be more on the creative side of growing your business and strategic planning and management of pushing that business forward and looking for more growth opportunities rather than having to be in the day in and day out daily operations. I can tell you there were times where, you know, I worked 60 days straight and I had a 1-year-old at home. So, you know, having your employees be able to kind of take some of that and being able to delegate will increase productivity on average 23%. It's also, when you have everybody that's kind of cross-trained and all of that, it keeps your customer service consistent, because it means everybody has that same knowledge. So it keeps your product and service consistent, which is what also is the expectation from customers. This builds loyalty from those customers as well. It also is going to keep your employees engaged. So as they're able to grow and learn more and move into new positions and promote within, they'll stay engaged, you know, and they'll feel kind of that ownership within the company. And so this means less cost to you because of less turnover. This is also one of the ways to spread company culture. So as you're continuing to train and build in, you know, what kind of vibe you want, what kind of expectation, what kind of customer service, what kind of teamwork and interactions you want, this builds the company culture and vibe and customer service that you want to promote. It also is going to act as a barrier of protection for you. Your employees' actions can be your legal responsibility. So they're acting as your agents, right? And so they're acting on your behalf in a lot of cases. And so if there's poor training, or if there's some kind of poor behavior, bad decision-making by your employee, then this can be something that you can be sued for as the employer. And so it's important, again, to make sure that you're continuously doing that training to keep yourself out of hot water. Let's see. So there are lots of different kind of theories on our hierarchy of needs or what motivates people. But I like using Maslow's only because of the fact that it's easy for everybody to understand, and it focuses on our basic needs, starting in a pyramid shape. So at the very lowest level, we need our physiological needs met. So that's air, water, food, shelter, the very basics. From there, we are, you know, you're kind of moving up. So as those physiological needs are met, our next need is going to be safety. So are we physically safe? Is our job safe? Is it free from harassment, right? Is it free from injury? Is our employment safe? Do we have health benefits? Do we have enough money to feed our family, right? Do we have a roof over our head? So, sorry, that's in physiological needs. But next, we're moving into what you can provide there is a sense of connection within business, working together. And then people start to look for respect within their job. They want to promote. They want to learn more things. They want to be cross-trained, right? And then at the very top is self-actualization. And so this is where people are looking to be the best that they can be. And so building some of these, especially at the basic level, those physiological and safety needs, in building that into your training and acknowledging that, hey, you know what, Elsie is not going to be able to do her job well if she's hungry and she's just thinking about eating, right? She's just thinking about eating, so she's not giving the best customer service. So making sure that we talk about, hey, this is when you can take breaks, this is when you are able to eat, or hey, she's not going to be able to do a very good job if she has to go to the bathroom really, really bad, right? So talking about like, hey, this is where the bathroom is, this is where that's at, this is how long it will be before you can use the bathroom or get something to eat. That allows people to have a sense of security and not be as stressed. And so you may consider putting some of this into your training. So we'll kind of talk about that through this here. So what to include in training. So first you have to decide what type of training makes sense for you and your position that you're trying to fill. So you want to include this in your business plan as you're kind of developing what your business is. And when we're talking about types of training, I've been in training where it's on the job training for like one day side by side with someone else. And I've been in other training that takes months and months of, in classroom training, and is really involved and in depth. And so you have to think about what makes sense. Is it kind of a mentorship to peer type training? Is it in classroom training and very formal? But whatever the training is, you want to make sure that you have a plan for continuous training throughout. So how do you update that training? How do you make sure that everybody's on the same page? You also want to start with some of the Maslow's. So what does attendance look like? When do they need to be present or need to check in? What happens if they're late? When are they able to take leave? How much leave are they able to take? When are their breaks? So again, that whole, when can they eat? When can they go to the bathroom? Do they have health benefits, or are there other benefits provided? How can they promote, right? Part of those Maslow's include that company culture. So how are you all going to communicate? So what type of meetings do you have, or teamwork do you provide? And what kind of behavior is the expectation or vibe? What's the chain of command? And so including that kind of within your training. Again, expectations is a huge one. You want to set boundaries, lay out very clear consequences of not meeting those expectations. So again, maybe in an employee handbook or in training, these things are 100% fireable behaviors on the spot, or hey, this is how write-ups work. You get one warning, and then we're going to work with you on A, B, and C. And then you get a secondary warning. Third one means you're fired, right? And then technical aspects of the job, obviously you want to go over in detail with those. So for safety, harassment, and diversity, these are all kind of together. So this is that second tier Maslow's of employees want to feel safe. They do a better job if they feel safe, right? So you want to cover precautions that you're taking, what's expected of them through safety, and make sure that this is at the forefront so that they know that they are physically safe from harm. It is also important to talk about harassment as well as diversity. And when we're talking about harassment, this includes not only within your company, but with any type of vendors, customers, suppliers, that you will protect your employees from any type of harassment. So talking about harassment and diversity, this sets the tone for everyone to feel comfortable. Again, it's that feeling safe so they can focus on doing their job rather than being stressed, and lays out the behavior that is welcomed and what is not welcome within your company. And then again, this keeps you safe in a legal perspective, or safer, I should say. So if there was some kind of accident, if there was some sort of harassment, you can show, hey, every employee has been trained on safety and harassment every 6 months for the last 10 years, right? So everybody is up to date. We've kept track of, impromptu safety meetings, and this can definitely help you out as well. So as far as managing employees, managing this training, you want to follow through on what you outline in training and in your employee handbooks. Stay consistent. Training doesn't just happen once. You want to have continuous refreshers. You want to add things in as difficult situations come up, and as your company shifts. So as you're adding new practices, new products, if you're expanding to new locations, you want to kind of add those in. Get the employees involved in it too. Get their input on future trainings, what they think they need, adding in best practices. So if you have a really solid superstar of an employee, ask them, what is it that you do to have sales so high? Or what is it that you do to stay so safe? And so include some of those best practices. Gather information on customer complaints or issues, any employee issues or confusion, or just including what it is that they want to know more about. Maybe they want to know, they're in sales and they want to know more about production, right? So include that in. You also want to take time to get to know your employees and what motivates them. So in that whole Maslow's pyramid that we were talking about, yes, everybody has the same basic physiological needs, but what motivates me may not motivate you. So maybe for me, I'm all about, money and benefits and promotion. Maybe that's what is going to drive and motivate me, but for someone else, it might be flexibility and work-life balance and being able to spend time with their family. And so figuring out what motivates each employee can really help you, again, to sustain them there and prevent that turnover employees. You also want to, again, document everything. I know I mentioned this in the last slide, but you want to document all of the training that you do. You want to document any type of write-ups or warnings or talking to of any employees, because this will allow you to keep track of your progress and successes in training and hiring employees. Have we done a good job with our hiring practices to get the right people in, right? And then also, it can be a barrier of protection. So it can lessen the blow of some of the legal things that you could potentially get into when hiring employees. So overall, key takeaways are make a plan of who you specifically need and how you will use them. So this is where Adam and his team can jump in of helping you really pinpoint who you might need for a position. You want to come up with a training plan that will meet both company and employee needs. You want to have that reoccurring continuous training going through. You want to stay up to date on the current tax laws and labor laws. You can always tap into, you don't have to have a lawyer on retainer or anything, but you can always tap into a local lawyer, maybe talk to them once or twice a year or so, make sure you're up to date on labor laws, and make sure that your contracts are legally binding and all that sort of thing. I'm just doing that once or twice a year. And again, document everything. Again, this is to measure your success and how you're doing. And then also to make sure that you're more legally protected, so decreasing the liability. With all of that, I see that there might be a question in the chat box. I'd love to open it up for questions here in just a second, but I also wanted to make you all aware of a couple of things that are coming up within the SBA. So we do have, if any of you have heard of emerging leaders, we have done this in the past. We have actually reimagined emerging leaders into a new program called Thrive. We are currently taking applications for this. It's a 6-month free in-depth program, and the applications, we're taking them until May 31st. And the actual cohort, we're able to take up to 20. But the actual cohort starts July 15th and will end December 15th. We have experts from all over the country coming in to teach the classes. It will be hybrid, so it'll be both online and in person. And so there's some information here. There are some eligibility requirements. So you do have to have been in business for at least 3 years, have revenues of at least 250,000 and have at least one employee other than yourself. There is some flexibility here depending on who our applicants are. So if you do have questions, I'm the point of contact for this particular program at the Portland District Office, but it's going to be amazing. They have some really cool things coming down the line. Also, next week is SBA National Small Business Week. And so there is a ridiculous amount of training going on across the country. So there is the national presentations that are occurring, which are virtual. So you can jump in and see some of those. They'll have some really amazing keynote speakers. At the Portland District Office, I put a link in here. We do have presentations Monday through Friday. And we'll be focusing on paperwork for your business on Monday with the Secretary of State. Me and Adam will basically be giving the same presentation on Wednesday. Sorry, skipped Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be how to finance your business. I'll be working with a lender and potentially the SBDC on how to finance your business and putting together a loan package. We'll also discuss government contracting, and we will end the week with a open panel discussion. So if you're interested in that, you can jump in there. And then there's also all across the country, if there's something else that you're potentially looking for, basically every district office is putting together presentations and 99% of them are online. So you can search to see if there's anything that you are wanting training in and be able to find something virtual across the country next week. So with that being said, I'm going to stop talking about this stuff and see if there is any questions in here. Okay. So this is a question for Adam, if you're still in there. So it says, does WorkSource offer employers support to update employee handbooks?
Yeah, so I've not had anyone ask me yet, but considering that our role is kind of a quasi-advisor, that's a little bit outside of our bounds because we can't really give a whole lot of advice for how to run your companies. We're more of the how to recruit and hire the skilled employees. I could say, well, I've read a lot of them and I've seen what people have in them, but to judge whether yours is sufficient to meet the requirements of whatever it is you're trying, I would be a terrible judge of that. Though I'm very good at editing for grammar, so that's always fun. But more than likely, what we would end up doing is referring you to the local Small Business Development Center here in Benton County. That would be Lynn Benton. Up there in Yamhill County, to be the Chemeketa Community College Small Business Development Center. I'm not sure if there's actually somebody at the Yamhill Center there or if they're in Salem. I haven't interacted with them yet, but they would be able to do a much more thorough job of advising what would be beneficial to have in there and whether or not what you put in there is up to snuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to let you guys know, the SBDCs are basically the boots on the ground for the Small Business Administration. And so they're funded through a collective bargaining agreement with us. Or partially funded, I should say, through a collective bargaining agreement with us. So you can, if you're looking in getting in contact with one of the SBDCs, if you go to sba.gov/local assistance, and I can drop this in the chat box too, you just type in your zip code and you can pull up our resource partners. So this would be the small business development centers, women's business centers, as well as if you happen to be a veteran or military connected family, the Veteran Business Outreach Centers, and then also SCORE. So you can put that in there and pull up whoever is closest to you. And they're, like I said, boots on the ground. They can help with things like any type of business planning, helping with employee handbooks. They can help with business plans and also access to capital. So they can help you through the process of getting financing. As far as the next question, will there be finance information for nonprofits? I don't specifically deal with nonprofits through the SBA. However, one of our lenders that is on the presentation may have some information about that. There's also the WBC right now is doing their like Friday funding talks. So the Women's Business Center out of Portland area. They're doing funding Fridays, and they talk about grants and financing for nonprofits. So this might be a really good resource for you as well. I can see if I can get that information from my counterpart, Anna, who's the other OMS for Portland District Office. So you all can jump on that, but it's also a question that you can ask our financial experts on Tuesday, if that's something that you wanted to join in on as well. And I don't see any other questions in the chat, but if y'all wanted to turn cameras on or mics on, now would be the time if you had any other questions you wanted to add. And let me, Joanna, I'm copying your information right here so I don't lose it.
Okay, I'm not seeing, do we have any more questions for Adam or Ashley? Okay, I think we're not seeing any more questions in the chat.
All right.
I think, and then Ashley, did you say that you had this presentation by PowerPoint that you could send over to me? And
yes.
Then anybody else, maybe if they've asked for you to send it, I think you're taking email addresses for that as well.
Yeah, so Rhonda, I can send it directly to you, and then if you wanted to distribute it, that would be great. There is the question about the funding Fridays, and I'll try and get the direct link for that, and I can probably send that over too. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having us. I'm super excited to be working with you for over the next couple months. I think I'm going to be dropping in every couple months, and yeah, I'm excited.
Great. Thank you again. We're excited again for the next presentation. And thank you again, Adam. And thank you, Ashley. If there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll go ahead and end this. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you. Have a great day,
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.